Painters, photographers, and the curious in general have been drawn to Ringwood Manor. Drawn by stories of unnatural occurrences that throughout the years made the manor the center of various writings. Led by their insatiable curiosity, some have remained to investigate those rumors.
I started asking the other workers, of course, if they had heard anything. And they said, oh, don't even bring this up. Don't talk about ghosts in front of the curator of Ringwood Manor. He doesn't believe in ghosts, he doesn't like to talk about ghosts. Just don't go that route.
When she mentioned ghosts, I went ballistic. I absolutely was against it. I absolutely resisted it because of my upbringing. And I'm religious, and I don't believe in ghosts because of that.
He did not want to have anything to do with someone like me who was not going to let go of the fact that I knew there had to be a story.
She was tenacious. She's a very tenacious woman, and if she has her mind made up, it's very difficult to change the mind.
After Bert allowed me to go through his office and realized I wasn't going to give up on the idea, he thought it might be a good idea to distract me by going through the house. So we started in the dining room. I didn't want to hear anything, I didn't want to see anything, I didn't want to smell anything or feel anything. But some people just get messages in their head, a knowing that is a communication, a spirit communication. And I believe I had that experience in the dining room. And this is a beautiful dining room. There are so many wonderful things to look at. And when I came into this dining room, the only thing I heard in my mind was footstool. And I kept thinking, what? Footstool, footstool, little man, footstool, little man. And I thought, this is odd, and I dismissed it. But lo and behold, when I looked very carefully, because I couldn't let go of the message, under the head of the table, there was a tiny, tiny footstool, almost camouflaged in the carpet. I had no idea what that was about, but I knew that it was a significant message because it wouldn't leave my mind.
I laughed because I remembered the episode I had in the Great Hall. And when I laughed, she said, okay, Bert Pearl, let me have it. What happened?
And he did finally start to tell me a very interesting story.
I was working alone in the house. My back was to the fireplace. And while I was working, I was carrying them down from storage and cleaning them, and then maintaining them. I was waxing them, and then I was mounting them on the wall. I felt a male appreciation emanate from the stairwell, a full-bodied male appreciation.
I thought he used an unusual mix of words. I asked him, how can an appreciation be male or female? And I also had a strange message go through my mind. He kept saying full-bodied male. At that point, I kept hearing a little voice saying, little man, big man, little man, big man. And I thought, this is unusual.
Full-bodied, meaning that the beam that is on top of the opening there did not cut off the top of his head.
Little man, big man. Something in my mind asked me to ask Bert, how tall was the master of the house? How tall was Abram Hewitt? At which point, Bert continued to tell me another story about Abram Hewitt and refused to tell me how tall he was.
I was having fun with her, and so I wanted to make her wait as long as possible to find out who it was.
I asked Bert for a tape measure. He reluctantly found an old one, and we measured the opening from the floor to the top of the stairwell.
And when we measured it, it turned out to be about 5'4.5" inches.
Again, I heard through my mind, little man. Again, I asked Bert, how tall was Abram Hewitt?
I eventually said, well, he was 5'4".
I felt that once Bert shared with me the height of Abram Hewitt and the fact that it was exactly the height of that opening, and the fact that he was a vertically challenged individual who would have used the footstool. It was his footstool. I felt that there was no going back in terms of information.
Later on, we had a friend come in from California who asked me later on if I had said anything to him, if I had spoken anything to him. And I said, no, I don't talk to dead people. And she said, well, maybe you ought to try it. Well, one night, I had closed the house up, and at the last minute, I stood and I curtsied him, and I said, good night, Mr. Hewitt. The words weren't out of my mouth a split second, and there was a brilliant purple flash on the opposite corner of the room. It was vivid.
And I thought that this was the beginning of the validation of Abram Hewitt. And obviously I'm not alone, since there have been so many other stories of people who have had non-coincidences of their own.
Blowing light bulbs, a mannequin that seems to have a life of its own, George Washington riding his white horse over 200 years after his death. Fact or imagination? Find out when we return.